I am Positively Chris Pace, and you are actively listening to Conversations with Chris.
All right, guys. Hey, I'm here with a really fascinating individual who I can't really explain what it is that it is. So I'm going to turn it over to him. Greg, please tell everyone who you are and what you are because I'm not capable of understanding it.
And then I'll go. I'm Greg. I'm into anything healing, anything spiritual. I'm really fascinated by doing commerce and I like business, but I also have, it's been a big purpose of me to kind of bridge spiritual awareness and what it means to be a human being into the business world because I personally feel like that's lacking. And I think that a great shift for humanity comes from bridging that awareness. So if we can work with people, high level individuals, even like everybody is important, but where I'm going, I'm just working with the people that are actually doing shit like Chris, like many people. And I love cash flow. I'm kind of like a cash flow guy in that sense. I also love supporting people. I also, I'm good at receiving too. So, I don't know where to begin, but with,
Well,
you
I
yeah.
always find, first of all, I got to tell everyone in the audience that Greg is text me last night with the best text message I could ever get from anyone ever. And it really just blew my mind. But basically, he said, I'm here to help in any way that I can. And it was such a humble statement that it really made an impact on me because not many people say something like that in the right way. And it doesn't usually come across like that one did. But with that said, I always find it's best to start from the beginning. So tell us where you're from. Tell us how you got into the whole hedge fund world and cash flow and how you bridged or how you found the combination of spirituality and financial independence, because that's obviously not something that people have mastered and something that people should be mastering because we need to be putting just as much importance on spirituality as we do money and money on spirituality, right? Because you can't have one without.
Right.
It's hard to be very
Right.
broke.
Yeah. I mean, if and there's a big missing component there that I've seen with a lot of people. I guess where I'm originally from is Northern California, Sonoma County. And, I went through some really big challenges there. And I think that Chris can relate, and anyone that's kind of like been through their version of hell has kind of had to find a way to come out of it through, there's been dark days and trying times that puts you in a position to where when you're at a really low point, your guides come in and sort of like, help you come out. And then, people start attracting. And I guess after, I had a business partner that, stole from me. I trusted him, whatever. I had family issue. My dad stole from me. I had, my house burned down, my parents' house burned down, like, my family home. And I felt into, an expression that wasn't really me because I was like, oh, these people are out having fun partying and all this stuff. And, I leaned into that for like 2 years because I was like, I just want to be normal. Fuck it, and you come to this point where you're like, that's not who I am, and I think a lot of people, uh, whether they're asking the question or not, it's like, who am I? So through that, I met one of my most dear friends, Robert Allen Pittman. He's the one that I'm going to put you on a call with to go on a deep dive with all things yoga. And he taught me martial arts. I practice a martial art called Bagua. It's like the cousin to Tai Chi, and it's nothing like Tai Chi, but kind of similar.
To give it up.
And it was a martial art that was developed to protect the emperor, back in ancient times. And it was also the mother's art. They taught it to men and women. And the form looks like a dance. You're walking around in a circle, and there's all these change of engagements. So you go through this protocol. There's 8 movements of it, and it goes through the change of light, hawk, snake, fire, wind. There's all these different
I,
components
stu-
to it.
I studied a form called Kuntal Silat, and
Oh,
it was
cool.
similar to that. It had monkey, snake, that kind of thing. And
Oh yeah, monkey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
There's monk. There's
Tai Chi's like movement of energy. Is this kind of the same thing or not really?
Same thing. Yeah, it bridges a awareness between heaven and earth because as you walk the circle, you're creating union between heaven and earth, and it's kind of you're winding and unwinding. So it's a similar awareness as what Ben's doing with the spinning device. And you're walking a circle, and the idea is, or one of the awarenesses could be, by the time you reach the next part on the circle and you're walking in the footsteps that you did walk in, you're changed. So it's a really powerful system to do as practice, and it's also extremely effective as a combat sport.
Really?
It's not a sport, but it's really effective in combat. Yeah, it's designed. You're always turning. It's designed for multiple attackers, because it was when the men would leave the village to go hunting, and the women were there. If they would get attacked by multiple attackers, the women could defend themselves among 10, 20 different people trying to pillage their village, literally. So it was.
That's how Kuntao was too. We couldn't spar
Yeah.
because everything was an elimination. So it was like we were training to kill people, not
Yeah.
to fight them. So we couldn't spar. It was like, all right, well, we know how to kill people, but we can't practice.
Yeah, any real martial arts kind of like that. You just you can get the feeling of it back and forth to each other, like when you extend your arm and you feel like, okay, that breaks like this, or it breaks like that. So when you sort of get those feelings of the breaking points, and then you do it back and forth on each other, it creates this awareness.
Yeah, pressure points, joints, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, you can't go hard, you can't go fast. It's got to be slow motion.
Yeah. Yeah, the soft points. And when you're doing Bagua, you're always about your height. It's like you're fighting with yourself. But anyway, not to get into a full martial art description, that was what kind of brought me into my center. That was what resonated most with me. And there's many things that I believe that awareness and consciousness is sort of like spokes to a wheel, and one way will bring you into the center. And once you get into that center, then kind of all things sort of make sense. It's like yoga's a way, cooking's a way, um, falconry, martial arts. There's these different, sort of modalities, or wisdom arts rather, that bring you into a space of center where you kind of have more of an idea of what it means to be a human. So, or having
Absolutely.
this experience.
I
So,
actually, it's funny because you skirted around what Ben's, his device does with what you are doing, and that's kind of brought you into that same place that
mhm,
handstands and yoga and inversions for me, being upside down on my hands, with a traumatic brain injury, neck issues, neuropathy, being upside down brought peace. It helped blood flow, it helped circulation, helped me feel things. And then after time went by, I found that I went to a certain breath that I had to maintain in order to hold a handstand. And so that became
right,
a meditation of sorts. And basically, I wasn't spinning, but I was upside down. Whereas you were spinning and weren't upside down, but we both ended
right.
up in the same place. And now we're all working on the same idea, which is
Yeah,
a beautiful thing.
it's all weaving us together.
Exactly.
And the
Exactly.
breath is fascinating too, because you can watch people, and it's like you'll get that quiver in the stomach or the breath, and it's like that's something traumatic, or something that you're holding on to leaving you, and all that sort of has to leave you in order to find that stillness. So it's like an evolution of it. Like, conceptually, I conceptualized the Bagua like way before I could actually do it in like, proper looking form, because it's like you've got to unwind all of this stuff. You've got to heal through it. And then as your spine and your kundalini and everything just starts channeling and twisting when you go through the Bagua, and then it twists the other way. It's you're you're just winding and unwinding, and your body starts to find its true center, and trauma and all that stuff has to leave. So.
Which you clearly had a bunch of that to get rid of after being robbed by everybody you know.
Oh my gosh, robbed, and then I was like mildly famous in my hometown, just like everybody knew me. So it's like I had all the good and the bad. I don't care to do that again. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's a
you've
lot.
got the eye of envy, and then when you're down and out, you've got everybody that envied you just
Nobody
talking shit.
understands too. When you're popular, you're also hated by many people. So it's like you got to take one or
Yeah,
the other. And it's like if I had my choice, I'd rather not be known by everyone. But at the same time, you gotta figure 10% of all your followers are complete psychopaths and crazy people, which means
yeah,
I have 100,000 of them.
yeah.
that are
I know.
following my every move, which doesn't make me feel comfortable. But I'm an anti-terrorist tactic strategist, so never take the
Yeah,
same
no,
route home twice.
I'm not worried about any of us.
Nah,
Well,
I think we're
so I'm
good.
not worried about any of you guys, and we've got totally tapped into the field, so we're all in a
Hold on
space
just a
of
second, bud.
protection. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Other issue with brain injuries is I have very poor memory, and so my fancy mics that make everything sound nice, I always forget to clip them on. But it
Oh yeah,
reduces the quality massively. So I have the big mics, but that's a lot of work. And
it is.
these things work really well.
Are they the little wireless Rode ones?
Yeah, it's like a little package. So like if we were together right now, I could give you one too.
Yeah,
Basically, you'd clip this on your shirt or hat or whatever.
yeah. I've got a couple of those too, just not with me. I
It's
just
a,
put my earbuds in so that way I can, you
yeah.
know,
I mean,
and
it's
those are
roughly the same idea, but supposed to be a pro and all that, so I got to put the clip on. So whatever.
yeah, it's all good.
All
Yeah.
right, so let's keep going. Yeah.
So in that let's see, where were we? Yeah, martial
So you
arts.
learned
So
about energy, and
uh,
then you were popular in the hometown, and that
yeah,
wasn't a good thing. But you healed from all the theft.
yeah. So I kind of went through all of that and healed and came out in this space of like really being fixed on my purpose, and part of going through this healing, the psychedelic mushrooms helped me a lot. And that kind of drove into putting them out there. Also, I was gifting these to some friends and friends of friends that were vets and went through traumatic experiences. Were on Xanax, were on fucking all kinds of different things like SSRIs, just like a multitude of these pharmaceuticals that just don't work. And so I started giving them chocolate bars or gummies or caramels, and they were eating them. And my friend calls me and he's like, dude, I haven't taken Xanax for 2 days and I'm not feeling like fucked up. My brain fog's clearing. I'm like, good. And so I called it out of this world because when I first ate them, mushrooms, I was just like, holy shit, these things are out of this world. And so
It's a logical name for it.
yes, so that kind of like moved us into this area. And one of my big focuses, which is more so coming on now because of all of you guys, was to provide some sort of support for vets and something about out processing and things like that. Like, so I'm really grateful for all of you guys to you know kind of consult with me as I consult with you, and we sort of like find a balance with that, because I see from learning a real martial art like what you're talking about, you realize that there's a missing component in basically every other martial sport or basic training or things like that, where it's like you're learning this force meet force modality, and it's missing the flow of the energy. And so
Mhm.
it's a lot easier to control and manipulate if you don't have a full understanding of that. So I think that there's a big component with kind of learning that missing component with a combat sport or a combat
I
tool.
tell people all the time, I wish I knew what I know now about how to harness and create energy when I was fighting and doing martial arts. Because if I knew this stuff now, the amount what I can do with that, holy cow, I would have been exponentially so much more effective. Not that I
Yeah,
wasn't
but
already, but man.
yeah, but
Plus
you
the
might not have
focus.
taken fucking yeah, but you might not have taken orders blindly. You know what I mean? that's
I certainly would have
that.
asked a lot of questions, that's for sure.
Yeah, they don't want that.
And that's why they put you on all those pills. They had me on them too, man. I had such a crazy story about that. And I think if you listen to Ben's podcast, that's how he kicked it off with me, was he wanted me to tell him the story about that. And so if you haven't heard it yet, it's nuts. But I was on 11
I've
different pills at one time.
Yeah, I've heard some of it, and I don't know. I know you have a traumatic TBI, right? And that was from what was from something that happened overseas.
Yeah, in the service. Yeah, I was overseas and suffered a severe TBI.
Oh,
And then afterwards, I mean, like everybody else in the military, you brush it off and act like nothing happened, and you don't ask for help. You don't tell people you're suffering. You don't. But all of a sudden, my
yep.
performance reports started to suffer. My school, I got selected to go to a commissioning program that was paid for by the military. I got to college, all of a sudden I'm struggling with stuff that I know inside and out. I clept my entire associate's degree and never took a course. I just took all the end of course exams and got the degree. Then all of a sudden I come to school my junior year after the head injury and I can't figure out basic stuff. And so I'm going, okay, I can't tell anybody, can't ask for help, and I can't let them know because they'll kick me out of the
Yeah.
program. And I was on track to become a pilot and arguably one of the first F-22 pilots back in 1990 to 2000-ish. So then
Wow.
2001 happened and they kind of crushed that whole program anyway. And it basically voided my contract. I'd already been honorably discharged. So I'd done 6 years total, active and then active reserve. And then it took me forever to even seek help afterwards because I still refused to believe there was anything wrong with me. And I was conditioned that you never tell anyone because it'll eliminate you from opportunities that you can have in life. So it took me about 3 or 4 years to finally go see someone for help, which because I took so long, then when I applied for the benefits, it took them 10 years to,
Right.
I had to go in front of a federal judge and tell my story and literally have it overturned the denials that they did. It took 10 years from the time of application to the time of approval. And it was crazy because it was all literally in my records. It wasn't like it was a complicated thing. You know what I mean? Like you're right here,
Right.
traumatic brain injury. It's like, I don't understand why we're even having a conversation, but it's not their job is to say no. And so many people I know
Right.
that are even worse off than I am, which is a strange concept to say. Uh, I don't have any disability because they don't fight for it, and they won't continuously go back, and they shouldn't have to. There should be a
Right.
system that helps you evaluate as you come out, tells you it's okay to admit that you have things that are going on, so that you're not forced to try and deal with those and everything else that you had to deal with, and decondition yourself and unprogram yourself all at the same time by yourself without asking anyone for help. So it's like that was my vision, was like, man, if I could create a veteran village where we could create an out processing system to teach people trades, teach them how to balance checkbooks. Most of these guys go in right out of like high school, so their parents paid all their bills until the military, and the military pays all your bills till you get out. Then they just jump
Right.
to the street. You don't know how to apply for a job, you don't know how to pay electric bill, you've never written a check, you never done anything. So it's like the basic fundamentals of being an adult need to be taught to the veterans before they release them, and
Yeah.
evaluate the level of PTSD they have because some of them aren't ready to be back in the civilian world.
Right. And one thing that he's been a customer of mine. We've talked a lot. We'll call him a friend at this point. He's a vet, and he said that before he found us, or what we're doing, that every day he put his shotgun in his mouth, and he would tell himself, today's the day I'm going to pull the trigger. And he said that he hasn't done that since he found what we're doing and things like that, and that is very humbling in a way. And also hearing the programming that he had to go through, because he's like, look, you're trained in the military that life is over when you're out of the military. Your life is over, your life is over, your life is over. Don't stop, keep going. If you don't keep going, you die. And then he's like, then they fucking pink sheet you. And it's like crickets. And
Yep.
so he's like, the programming comes in, which he didn't realize until unwinding this. He's like, and then the programming comes in, and you're like, my life's over. So it's like, he's like, you're just already conditioned for that in your head. So he's
Oh
like,
yeah.
regardless if
You
you are
part of
disabled. Yeah.
you're part of a team and a group of guys who's a family that you literally have bled with, sweat with, done everything with. And then all of a sudden they discharge you and you're not around anybody who's a part of that team or understands what you are doing. And now you're
Right.
back in the civilian world. You don't speak the same language because we speak military acronyms.
Yeah.
We have trauma, we have stress, we have, like you said, we're conditioned to believe that we are always going to die the next day. And it's literally a part of like every briefing. When you're going, I was in Japan, I had to fly to Korea, and they briefed us ahead of time, and they go, listen, I just want to let everyone know right away that if you guys fly into South Korea, if North Korea invades, they're going to kill everyone all the way down to the farthest southern point before we can get F-15s there, and then we'll annihilate them. And we're like,
Right.
oh, fantastic. So there's no chance of us surviving, huh? Perfect. Great way to start the meeting. Let's go.
Yep.
But
Boom.
you don't
Yeah.
get a choice.
Here,
You
here
gotta
we
go.
go.
They're orders.
Hoorah.
So,
Yeah.
and then they play mental games with you. They give you this piece of paper called a dream sheet to see where you want to go, what base you want to be stationed at. And so I put all
Oh
bases on
God.
the East Coast of the United States, no overseas bases. You know where they sent me? Okinawa, Japan for 3 years. It's like, let's get his hopes up before we crush him.
Oh
I
my
swear
God.
it's just a mental game, though. That's all it is. And it's meant to be, and I mean, it's effective because we're obviously really good at what we do. But
Yeah,
also,
it's
like,
amazing, honestly.
maybe we should probably look at deprogramming these people
Yeah,
after this is worked, after they're done with their work. Because, you know, what, like Ben's AI system said, man, you can't heal the soul with medication. You can't reconnect
right,
the soul to the body, and they literally take your soul out of you. You can't have a soul when you're serving the
right,
country. You believe in what you're doing, and then as you get
right,
older, you realize that what you were doing was not for what you believed. And now you've got to deal with that. You've got to live with that, you know, and that's a hard thing for a lot of people to carry around. Um, I made peace with it years ago because, you know, obviously the first question you ask is, why am I back? And those other people didn't make it, you know,
right,
in a way you blame yourself and all this other stuff. And that's an easy path to go down. And I love the psilocybin route because I've read so many studies and so much where there's so much now evidence that it works. Microdosing works to cure PTSD and help in every way. And there's no side effects other than fun.
look, all studies aside, there's no downside to taking it. There's no like known lethal dose or anything like that. It's like, you know what? If anyone's on the fence, it's like take it and make your own assessment of it because, like, well, what's the harm? You know, worst case
Well, and
scenario, you have a challenging experience and you come out the other side and you're like, whoa, I feel better for whatever reason. So it's like the way I see it is there's very high use case, very little downside to it, and you just might have an experience. The worst case scenario is you have what would
talk to
be
Papa
in the
Smurf.
moment. Yeah, yeah, something like this.
But you know, I
So
mean, and the other thing is too is like, you know, mushrooms and fungus is literally like the fascia of the earth or the world wide web of the earth. You know, I mean, it connects all living things literally, and they've seen now of what an amazing thing it is. And so to the idea or concept that it would also connect us back to the earth, which, you know, if you do grounding and you stare at the sun,
yeah,
everything you're taught not to do, you're supposed to do. Stare at the sun. It's actually really good
yeah,
for you. You're supposed
yeah,
to stand in the dirt, not wear shoes every day because your body electrically charges and discharges with the earth. Makes a
yeah,
lot of sense, but there's an entire population of people in China that'll never touch the ground. They live on a condo building where everything's on the building and they'll never touch the earth. And that's
yeah,
crazy to me that we've become so detached that we no longer even realize that we're on a planet,
yeah.
a living organism made of the same things as us. And then here's this
Yeah,
fungus that connects everything, but we're not going to use it. But
right. I mean,
or we'll
it's.
use all of them, but this one. Like,
But you brought up one really good point about reprogramming, and because that is probably the largest focus of what we do with the other journeys and sacraments, sort of that we offer, or not necessarily offer, but that we do for certain people. And it's all about reprogramming. We've got a couple different journeys. We're working on another one, but it's like we're pairing, medicines or sacraments that put you into a high alpha state, and and we're putting in affirmations that are like totally reprogramming. And there's different stages and different people. It's like, we've subscribed, or I could say a lot of people have subscribed to like one type of religion or subscribed to another one, and there's these subscriptions, and it's like, you know when you get into what you subscribe to, it's like there's a level of programming in that. There's a level of programming in like going through anything you've done basically in this reality. So we're big on reprogramming, and that's a huge component. But I think it's in stages, but I also believe that there's like quickenings. It's like you could put your feet in the earth and you could breathe and you could look at the sun and you could do all of these things for 5 years and maybe move the needle 10%, or you could have a total fucking breakthrough, right? But you take 5 grams of mushrooms and you do that, you're gonna have a fucking totally different experience, and it's arguably gonna you know speed up that process, and you're gonna move it relatively quickly, and it'll just kick you off. And I just like to call it a quickening, and if we can hold space for this quickening to occur at a larger level, it's going to affect change, because it's not like everybody needs to wake up or not, and it's like everyone's journey is important, and it's like no one's better or worse than each other. So it's like but there's people that are hurting. There's the 22 suicides that you're talking about a day. This is a warrior population. This is a very strong community, and it's like, so this is a big part that's out of balance. So if there's any way I can provide support in that, like I'm all yours, so
Absolutely. Well, I'm
that
100% behind plant medicine. I believe anything that comes from the earth is given to us for a reason. And,
right.
these are miracle plants that can make a big difference. And, in Florida, medical marijuana is legal, but they have not legalized mushrooms yet. We hear that it's coming to our way, but, I don't know. And obviously, it's not a great idea to awaken an entire population and make them all free thinkers, because now you got a bunch of people running around actually thinking for themselves. And so they need population control. They want people to follow the rules, stand in line, wait your turn, that kind of thing. But you're right. The 22 suicides a day can be fixed with a series of events that you could do over a 6 year period, or you could do it over a six
Yeah.
week period. But we don't have
Yeah.
6 years to spend with these guys. We need to get them fixed now. And there's a huge movement right now. Everyone's going to Peru to do ayahuasca. But what people don't realize too is it's not so much just the root or the plant, it's also the environment, it's the surroundings, it's the people, it's the energy of what you're, because you could get all the right plant medicine, but have a really bad experience if you're not with the right people. And if you
Oh my
mix
God.
alcohol with it, it's
Yeah.
terrible.
If you don't have a real facilitator with ayahuasca, someone that's directly connected to the lineage, and you don't have the right group of people, you're not going to have, you're not going to have the same experience. I mean,
Right.
and you know, it's like,
We have a church in Orlando that does mushrooms on Sunday.
that's good.
Have you ever heard of that? I know
No.
I haven't been. I just heard about it and saw it, and it was like it's a church based. The religion is based on using mushrooms, and so they take mushrooms every Sunday morning at church.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
I think all of these things are amazing. I just like how mushrooms is like a really good start point. It's like, because ayahuasca, you're signing up for a
it's a
long
commitment right there.
a
Yeah.
long experience,
My
and
grandmother, oof, that's 5, 6 hours of you ain't coming back.
you
I
ain't coming back.
don't
Just
care how
like,
much you puke, it's in you.
but
Same
and
with
as far as
peyote, San Pedro, DMT. All of this cactus and all the root plants are extremely intense, we'll say.
yeah,
But
DMT is amazing.
it's that's your afterlife experience. If you want to know what it's like after this world, DMT.
Yeah,
It's the only
yeah,
times it's released, right? When you're born, or when the moment you're conceived, and the moment you die is the only time your body's flooded with DMT.
right.
Is
I
that
mean, we
accurate?
produce it. Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, but you produce it in dream time. It's like connected to the dream space. The higher melatonin you have in your system, like when you go to sleep, your melatonin levels raise and more DMT is made. So that's why they,
Interesting. So I got a question for you. I
yeah.
have REM sleep disorder. So I wake up, and when I wake up, I still am in my dream or nightmare, depending on what I'm having. And now I'm
Oh
also
yeah,
in my reality, and it's basically like living in parallel universes or having two screens running at the same time. And I can't differentiate between which one is the real one, because what does real mean anyway, and which one is the dream
right.
one. And it doesn't go away like most people in a few minutes, where you're like, fade back into reality. Mine last a long time. So like I don't have to remember my dreams. I can just sit there and write them down while I'm in them. But also,
Ye-
if I'm having a
Yeah,
bad dream, it can affect my life. But so is that
yeah.
something
When
that's happening?
when you go through a prolonged period of, I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything like this, but when you go through a prolonged period of never going into REM sleep, never going into deep dream sleep, your body needs that. So then it just says fuck it, and it starts doing dream time like whenever it needs to. So it's like you could be, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you could be like walking down for lunch and it's like dream time's coming in, right?
Absolutely. Like I literally live,
Um,
and I was talking to Dr. Greg yesterday, the chiropractor doctor who's a
yeah,
healer, and he
yeah.
was telling me that he intentionally helps people to find that, because it's really like a superpower thing. And I'm like, well, listen, when you combine that with severe sleep apnea and PTSD, it makes for a very little sleep. Like you said, now I don't ever know if I mean, a lot of times I'm like, okay, is this really happening right now? Especially with the amount of dumb stuff that's going on every day in the
Yeah.
world. I'm like, am I in
Yeah.
a dream or is this reality? And then I'm like, well, what is a dream? What is reality? But like everyone
I
else,
mean,
You know what I mean? Like this is where the whole paradox of things comes into play, right? We can't get too
I
deep.
mean, life's kind of a dream that never really happened, right? Because all we have is now, you know?
There's only now. The timeline is not, there's no future, no past. It's just always now. And it doesn't matter where
So
you are. So it's all
so what?
real.
Right. It's all
And the
real.
subconscious mind's 30,000 times stronger than the conscious mind, meaning that you could really manifest some really cool stuff if you could tap into the subconscious mind while you're awake.
Yeah, I like to call it the superconscious
Super conscious.
because it's yeah,
I
I
like
like to
that.
call it the superconscious mind because it's like that's
This
your
would be a great
powerhouse.
point for us to advertise our retreat that's upcoming. It's 10 grand.
Yeah,
We're going to change your
yeah,
life between
superconscious.
yoga,
Yeah,
meditation, his
yeah,
martial art, and some plant medicine. We got you.
yeah, exactly. So, if there's any, this whole thing working with Benjamin has been really amazing, and it's right in line with what I've been doing on a smaller level because I'm, anyone that needs the medicine or wants it or finds it, they have access to it. So, but highly focused in a group of veterans and people that have gone through traumatic things, having the credibility from you guys, and also, like when I take you through one of these journeys that we do, and just to have to go through that with you, it's just like we need more of us backing each other, and like being, sharing what we're doing because there's just so much to it, and there's a wisdom tradition behind some of the stuff that we're scratching the surface of. It's like that's why it's important for me to have you get on a call with Robert about yoga and stuff because I mean Robert spent 50 years traveling around the world trading martial arts and yoga for other wisdoms and traditions, and he's been taken in by different cultures to really learn tradition. So it's like he knows yoga on probably the deepest level of anybody. He's studied with the people that you would know,
Oh, yeah.
and he's friends with them, or some of them have passed. So
Yeah, I'd say, it was an eye-opening experience when I went over to India to see and realize how massive yoga is because between Bangladesh, China, and India, that's half the world's population. Half.
right,
So the rest of the
right,
world is spread out across all the rest of the continents, but half of the world's population lives in that little small area. And when you look at it on a map, it's mind-boggling. But when I went to this event in this arena with thousands of people, and then the competitors do yoga 6 hours a day from the time they're 4 years old till the time they compete. And the amount of people, like the ministers of India over there, because the prime minister was supposed to come, but then fortunately they had a war and that took priority.
yeah,
So that took him away from it. But I mean, that's how important it is to their culture, their way of life. And yogasana, the sport of yoga, has been around
yeah,
just as long as yoga. And it's just been never organized the way yoga was and brought over to the States. So that's
right,
what they have asked me to do because in order for us to get into the Olympics in 2036, which is what we're slated to do, we have to have 75 countries on board to compete. And everyone
right.
knows that if the United States builds a team, and it's amazing,
Yeah,
that
everyone else will fall in line.
everyone else will fall in line. So that was the whole purpose of them kind of bringing me over, wining me, dining me, and and then anointing me as a delegate to go out and spread yogasana to the world. And the first thing most yogis say is yoga is not a competitive sport. And my response to them is yogasana is, and it was created by the same people who created yoga. And what they've done is very strategic. It's beautiful. They've tricked people into doing yoga and made it a sport, right? So instead of holding
Yeah,
for 5 breaths, which yogis do, you hold for 15 seconds. It's the same thing, but now it's a sport. But it had to be definable, gradable, judgeable, that kind of thing. And the rules for the Olympics
right,
are very strict. So they spent a lot of time and energy putting it together, and it's very well organized. And also the second thing is yoga means to bring together. So what
right.
brings people together more than the Olympics?
Yeah, I
And
don't
so
know.
to
It's
me,
definitely
that's like the
one.
definition of yoga. So like anyone who's against this, and I'm going to do a whole thing on this because I'd like for people to go ahead and get past this whole hang up. They're going to stand their ground that yoga is not a competitive sport. Well, I disagree because everyone I know who does yoga over in India has won or competed in a championship of some sort throughout their life, and it's a part of their way of
Right,
life. It was just very spread out and individualized, and it was never brought together. So now they've created the World Yogasana Federation, and each country's creating their own federation, and we've created the United States Yogasana Federation, and it's basically just the competition of, and it's beautiful to watch. If you ever Google it on YouTube, it's really cool, and I think it's going to catch a lot of veterans too, because that's where my heart is getting more guys into yoga, but also vets. And
Right.
veterans are competitive. They're not going to show up to a yoga class because there's no competition. This, I'm creating a special category for only for veterans in the United States that they can compete against each other in yoga, which is amazing. I think that's so cool. And like as a vet, if I wasn't so broken and old, I'd probably give it a shot. But there's going to be a lot of young vets coming out that are going to be able to find yoga through the sport of yoga, and that's a great
It's
thing.
good.
So it's just a
Yeah.
matter of making awareness, just like with psilocybin. You've got to get people aware that the stuff
Right.
is good for them, not bad for them, and also that
Right.
it's okay. Like you're not gonna die. You're gonna be okay. It's more dangerous to take ibuprofen.
Yeah. Dude, you went to war, bro. Like
Yeah,
mushrooms is
yeah,
you're
you're
good
gonna
on a
be
little
okay.
microdose.
You
Yeah,
may
you're
have to
gonna be
confront
good.
some things, but you'll be all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, you
So
might have to confront some things. Get out of
I do
here.
think it's a cool thing, though. What we're putting together and how it's all coming together. I'm blown away, honestly, at I have the fortunate privilege of getting to talk to everyone, and they're all telling me what they do and how they do it. And I could not put a puzzle together any more perfectly that
Right.
just fits and works. And all of us are like on the same goal, same path, same everything, but all of us bring different skill sets, different trainings. Because let's face it, not everyone learns the same way. So maybe
No.
psilocybin works for some people, but maybe yoga works for other people, or maybe
Yeah. Or maybe you're
this.
just not ready. Maybe you're not ready to do that. There's a level of fear around certain things. I mean, part of it's the programming, but you know, what I like to say is that when you feel nervous about something, or what, like if you feel nervous to take, mushrooms or something like this, sorry for the dog's barking. If you feel that uncomfortable way, it's because you're about to learn some shit. And
Mhm.
so it's like your subconscious or super conscious is like, it's like your boat's about to be rocked open in the most beautiful way. So it's like whenever I get that kind of nervousness, I'm like, oh shit, I'm about to learn something. So it's kind of like let that wash over you, and just do what you feel is right. Only you know what's best for you. And if you do what's best for you, then everything else falls into place.
I teach people that everything you want in life is on the other side of fear. And whatever you're
Yeah.
afraid of, if you can overcome that fear, I guarantee you on the other side of it is something amazing. But the
Yeah.
fear is
Well,
meant to challenge you to see if you're ready to overcome the fear in order to get what's on the other side. So once I learned this, I went straight towards all my fears. Now I'm like, okay, what am I afraid of? Okay, now I'm going to do that because I know there's something over the other side. And you know what? It's
yeah.
after you become addicted to overcoming fear. And after a while, once you overcome all the fears, now you can live a life of love without any fear because love and
Yeah.
fear are complete opposites, right? You can't live a life of love and be afraid of things. That's not
Yeah. I
possible.
mean, fear, worry, ignorance really shuts out the guiding light. So it's like all of these other expressions are taking up space for that to come in. And once you see a little bit of it, I can relate. It sort of does get, I wouldn't say addicting, but it's just like exciting. You're just like, oh my gosh, like, and things keep opening and opening, and you get into this space where you're like, everything you think about just starts coming in. It's like I was thinking about all of this stuff with vets, and it's like boom, it just washes in, and it's like boom. And so it's like the foundation and part of what we're working on is huge, because it's creating a space for all of this to occur. Like I don't know what's going to occur. Like I don't know. Like some people want to live in domes and be totally disconnected. Some people don't, but it's like the point of the fund and all the stuff that's coming in, and people that want to leave legacy. It's like I'm building a space for people to leave legacy that maybe want to do something good with their money, or I'm building a space where people can live, or whatever. It's not my expression. There's no ego, because it's like I'm just one component of this thing. It's like, maybe something supports what you're creating, or maybe something supports what I'm creating. And it's like, but together, we're a big force. And it's not about waking everyone up or not. You know what I mean? There's different stages of evolution. Like people are at different parts on the evolutionary ladder. And like this is okay. Like we need all levels. It's like, so it's like, but the people that are in a more conscious space need, to connect up with more people, so that can be a beacon, for and like an easier path. It's like, if you're forging a path, it's so that people that walk behind you have an easier way to get there. And some of us have a different level of will, or a different level of intuition, or a different gift. Everyone's got their gifts, and I call it their shining capacity. Once you find someone's shining capacity, you can really get a lot through that.
Well, the good news is I have a vision, and Ben coined me the architect of the new world before I even knew anything about this. And that's where that term came from for this entire series, was that he said, I'm the architect of the new world. And I was like, well, it's funny you say that. I always wanted to be an architect when I was a kid, but I never got to follow through with it because I got a brain injury and couldn't go to architect school. But now I get to be an architect, and I get to architect the new world. But
Yeah.
also, most importantly, we have to touch on the subject of this cash flow thing with all of the spirituality, because obviously to make this
Uh,
happen we've got to fund it, and that's where we
yeah.
need your wisdom and your knowledge and your training and your expertise also, because yes, we do need psilocybin, but we also need money because
Yeah.
we can't
Well,
buy anything without it or we can't get together anything.
so
So how do we do
I,
it?
I I look at anything being great, being self-sufficient. Okay. And it's like, and I want this to, I'm setting this up to live in perpetuity. Like even the trust structure, everything's, all the trusts are set up in South Dakota. They live in perpetuity. It's like the one state that you don't have to renew it in 99 years. And it's like, I don't know who's going to come behind me that's going to need to refigure something out. So I'm setting this up so it can be like truly set up to be a legacy that is just ever evolving. And you talk about all the components, it's like everything has a cash flow aspect to it. It's like even in psychedelic mushrooms, as this goes legal, it's like there's most veterans that I've talked to, I can't speak for all of them, but the VA's office, the Western medicine, all that stuff's not doing anything. So just how big is the veteran population right now? Do you
It's
know?
3 million people in the United States, I think,
3 million.
which
So
is
let's
three
just
times
let's
larger than the Chinese army.
right. So let's just say there was a community, right, where there was a lot of benefits for it. Let's just say mushrooms alone had let's say 1 million of them, you know, just 1 million people, 1/3 of the veteran population that came together. And instead of them paying whatever or doing whatever, they pay fucking 199 or $129 a month for, their microdosing. And it also opens up access to going places and things like that. Like there's a very small fee that everybody can afford to help support this, where you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars a month, and it's like, we're not at that now, but there's a point where all of this is under the trust, under the different branches of the nonprofits. Like we're building one what's 51% veteran owned, so we can go with government things. All of this stuff is going under trust. It's going to live in perpetuity. The cash flow all fucking revolves in that. And we can make all this not for profit, and it supports the whole infrastructure. It's just one component of it. So we've got so many different components, so many different people, and this will hold space. And we don't know what other people are going to bring to the table. So it's like we start with just gathering the right people, which we've done, and there's more people coming. Like it's this whole thing's already done. It's just like we're
Already
just now
created.
we're just enjoying the experience. You get the yoga thing mainstream, and we have actual real, we have
Visible.
actual real community do yoga. I mean, dude, there could be a whole movement with vets where vets are teaching vets yoga, or where people are teaching vets yoga, where it's $20 subscription to like go on your device and see, Kris doing something and whatever, and you can resonate with that. And then when you want to
You,
go deeper, there's a way
you
to
want to know how
go.
accurate that is? So I'm working
Yeah.
with Ben's contact, Chris Dixon, who I'm interviewing later today. And his entire purpose in this whole project and then what he wants to do is help veterans gain access to grants. And he knows everything about it. So the very first grant that he came across the other day, I'm 100% disabled vets, but I own a
Yeah.
nonprofit, a 501c3. So I'm in position that he's telling me how I have points and all this stuff. And then he says, the first grant he says is the Veterans Administration is looking for a wellness coach for an app for vets. And
Yeah.
they give $13 million over a 5-year period. And I was like, so wait, I get to help veterans and I get money to build another method to help veterans? Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's really in alignment, and I'm at the top of the list because of the
Your status.
disability, yeah,
Yeah.
status, the 501c3, and me being the owner, which that's my whole dream has been. So that's why I say, even what you just said was so in alignment with exactly what is happening. And it's like, we can just sit back and watch because really this isn't in our control at all. It's
Yeah.
happening around us, it's happening to
Mhm.
us, it's happening with us.
Truly.
We're just willing to be a part of it. And so that's really what makes a difference.
Yeah, and then you've also got people with with endless money, like hundreds of billions of dollars, right? And there's one thing. It's like they want to be a part of something. I can't speak for them, but like the feedback I've gotten and the things, they want to be a part of something that creates legacy, right? This is legacy, bro. This is legacy, and it lives in perpetuity. And a lot of these people that, from my experience, they're sick of giving to give to give to give to give. They have to give because of tax reasons and other things, but it's like the bottomless fucking pit. When we come and say, hey, look, we've got Chris's nonprofit branch, we've got what I'm doing, all of this, I've built it under a trust structure. We've put all of our stuff under trust, where in your the rest of your human experience, you do what you feel is right. You write down your vision and what your main components are to keeping as the building blocks of it. That gets locked into trust forever. And then whoever comes behind you, but it doesn't die with you. It lives under the trust in perpetuity forever. The app, $20 a fucking month, a million vets, $20 million a month. They know they're supporting vets. Okay. Everyone has 20 fucking dollars a month, and it's supporting all the teachers, and it gives them access to all of us in a way too, where it's like, we do these events, we do these things, we could do donation bases on certain things. It's like, but we get the cash flow right through these little things, which I don't think anyone would have a problem supporting, even if they don't use the app that much, and they get to see Kris talking about something, or they get to see me bringing energy to it, or like us doing yoga together. We do live streams, we do whatever. Like, there's so much access to people right now that it's ridiculous. We get people on $129 a month microdosing subscription. I mean, you're under $200 a month for, you get a disability check larger than that. And this comes with community. Like, every single person can go into, we could call it out processing. Like, hey, all the vets can spread this. We don't need marketing. We don't need advertising. We have all of you guys. You're a vet. You say, hey, sign up for out processing. It's $200 a month, 100% money back guarantee if you don't get something to it. And we have all these different stages. Not everyone's ready to go fucking take DMT and launch into the fucking cosmos, because integration is a challenging thing. But it's like, wherever you're at, we provide the space for you to come if you want,
Right.
and it's like,
Right.
whatever, what, there's going to be a lot of a lot of people are like, yoga, that's fucking whatever. I
Right.
don't know what we
Right.
can and can't say on here, but I don't want to do that. you know um so it's like,
Yeah,
but then
the other
then
the
you
other thing that shows its alignment is, look at what the government's doing right now. Look at what RFKJ is doing. They're really trying to push for a healthier, better country, as far as they're making changes in the right direction. And I just listened to Trump the other day say that he wants to see more nonprofits for vets funded, because that's the solution that we're looking for, not the VA. The
right.
VA serves its purpose, but there needs to be more nonprofits. I'd like to see this mandated, just like reverse boot camp. This is the deprogramming of the programming that we did to you when you started, so you can go back to actually living a normal life and evaluate people for a certain period of time before releasing them. It's like taking a wild animal and releasing it back or taking it from captivity and putting it back in the wild. You can't just do that, because it doesn't remember how to hunt, doesn't remember how to take care of itself. And this is the same type of thing, only the other way around. And so we've got to create a system that mandates that vets go through a mind bending process,
A
something,
reprogramming.
a reprogramming, and decondition them from
Yeah.
speaking military language and being always in a state of fight or flight and perpetually in a state of paranoid. And like you said, it's going to take a lot of tools to do that. It's not something we can just throw medicine
we
at and walk away.
Right. We have all the tools between us, and that's the powerful thing. And I'm looking at it like, we need to, what you're doing and looking at it from the RFK and all these other people that are coming in. Um, that's amazing, and it's a huge component. Where I'm coming in is, I'm putting everything in the private side. I'm putting everything under trust. We're going to own the land, claim the land, have sovereign land, where it's like, you don't have to deal with some of these regulations and shit, where you come there, you're actually free. You talk about being free. Like, we're minors to the government because we haven't changed our status. The government's our daddy. Our parents signed our birth certificates off to the government. I mean, there's a whole nother layer of programming that we just like, and so, like, but you provide the space. We get all the different, the Cosmos Resort, the whatever your place that you envision, the different facilities. We start stacking them under trust. We start putting them in the private side. We start funding in the private side. We do commerce in the public. with our C corps that are owned by trust. You have your 501c3 that's owned by trust, so that way when Kris dies, in this life and it ascends, that still lives. It
Yep.
doesn't die with you, because it's like this is the structure of how the mega wealthy are setting up in a way, so that way they have dynasties. It's like we need to set healing modalities up in a way that they just don't die with the people. There's been so many great things that have been created, and they go because there's a big missing component, and that's where the cash flow comes in. That's where everything being self-sustaining. So it's like my whole thing is like, get with you guys, learn exactly what your guys' magical gifts are. I put mine in, we come together, and then everyone forms trust. When you form trust, you learn to trust yourself, you learn to trust each other, you learn to write down, and this is your laws. They're under God. We made God and God made us. It's like there's a whole program with that shit too. It's like that's in us. That is us. We are it. We create our reality by rendering it. It's inside of us. Like this earth that we live on is our projection inside of us and a part of us. Like that's why connecting with it is so fucking important.
Yep, 100%. And I believe you're right on everything you said. And I think it's not coincidental that right now we're going through a financial system change. We're going through an eating change. We're going through a lifestyle. The government's
Yeah.
doing a lot of things, but also the government shouldn't be responsible for curing and healing everyone. That's not their responsibility. What we got to realize is that it's just as profitable to cure people as it is to medicate them. And that's the
Right.
thing we haven't figured out, how to make people realize that, hey, it's profitable and ethical to heal people and make them better, because now they can actually be effective in life and in the world. And who knows what those people have to offer, because I certainly didn't think I'd be here at this point, but I now
Yeah.
doing, and it's like, so I know how many other veterans have gone away too soon because of the fact that they didn't see any
Yeah.
hope. And I was one of those people that I considered the option and looked at it and was like, nope, nope, no, 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 not for me. I mean, it certainly crossed my mind, because there are moments where you just don't feel like you're ever going to fit back in. And that's a
Right.
ridiculous concept that nobody should ever have. You should never, ever feel hopeless, because if there's anything that I've learned in life, it's that the only thing constant is change. And you know what? It may be raining like heck right now in your life, and you may be in a terrible spot, but 6 months from now, you may be in the best spot you've ever been in your life, and you'll forget all about this rainy days. And so you just have to say, like you said, steadfast, find community, find modalities of healing and people who can help you, as opposed to people who prescribe you a drug and then send you home and let you try it out and see what happens, and knowing that the stats don't make any sense. Placebos are just as effective as SSRIs. So what,
Yeah.
99% of people get on them, don't get off them. I was on
Yeah.
them. I got off them, had no problem. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
And
I don't know. I'm any less crazy. I still have all the same psychological issues, but maybe I'm just aware of my
see, I
psychology.
don't I
I
don't
don't
even
know.
know if they're psychological issues, bro.
I don't know
Just
though.
feel
That's the
it's
thing. Like,
just
what does it
feel
mean?
for the fire, bro.
Right.
Like,
I don't
yeah,
know. Am I
just
supposed to be normal?
repurpose
Because
them.
what's normal? Who's normal? Like, give me a
Yeah,
standard.
I
So
don't know
it's
if that's yeah.
acceptance. Acceptance that change is always going to happen is probably the most important thing for people, and realizing that what makes us powerful is adaptability. The more we
Right.
can adapt to any situation, the better off we're going to be as human beings,
Yeah.
as living creatures on this earth. That's how all animals have survived. They have to adapt to the change. And right now there's a big change happening in the right direction, that it's
Yeah.
and it's a bounce back from the last 4 years, which was in the wrong direction, in my personal opinion. But the destruction of America. Now we're having the reconstruction. So I think
I
it's going
mean,
to take time, but I do
oh,
think that we've got. You're right. We have all the right people in all the right places. It's amazing to me how I have three podcasts today, one of which is with you. The next one is with
yeah.
Chris Dixon, who I just talked about, who's the guy who finds the financing, and then the last one is with the guys out at Stargate. So I literally am
Yeah,
meeting with, what I mean? Like, that's how lined up my day is. Yesterday I met with Ryan, who's a
mhm.
two-time World Series champion, and he's now out traveling the world just trying to make a difference, which I think is absolutely amazing. Like, he's just going from third world country to third world country, just trying to help people. And I'm like, that's cool, but let's get you on board with what we're doing here, because without veterans, there wouldn't be baseball. Plus, vets love baseball because it's American. So you can
Yeah.
inspire them here. You can be a part of this. So he volunteered to give autographed cards away with the cane that I designed, as
Yeah.
more of an incentive for people to buy them for vets. And I was like, dude, that's
Right.
awesome. Now we're coming together. Now we're putting stuff together that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it's really fun to be a part of. It's amazing to have you a part of it.
Yeah,
I'm
for
really
sure.
grateful that you know what you know because I certainly don't. But I also do trust, like you said, and I believe that you're the type of person that's always going to do the right thing because you know what it's like to have the wrong thing done to you, and
Yep.
you're never going to put anybody through that. I know what that's like too. And so to
No,
me,
in this space, it's like I'm the ultimate protector in this regard. And like you can relate to that. It's like when you are tactically trained, when you're whatever, you always have your situational awareness. You're always aware of what's going on. It's built in you. You sit with your back to the room of the restaurant so you can see if there's any threats. It's like you can smell when there's a threat around without even seeing it. You know it. It's like it's in you. I'm like I have the same like I have the same awareness. I mean, both tactically, but also in terms of protecting the unseen, and it's like I'm always working on myself. I'm always learning shit every day. Like the rabbit hole, anything that's anything that is real, so to speak, it's a never-ending process. It's like you're constantly working on yourself. That's the beauty of being here. You're always going to get met with challenges. You're always going to get met with things, and you're always going to learn something new. And it's like I do my Bhagwal like as much as I can. Almost, I try to do it every morning. Haven't lately, but it's like I go through and I'm like, oh fuck, it's perfect. And right when you think you know it, you learn something new. You know what I mean? It's like yes. So it's like I look for
exactly.
those moments. It like makes me happy. And then when you go down the rabbit hole of like what is money, like what is this? It's like when you start realizing all of these things, it's like it's truly the bottomless pit. There's a remedy for everything. It's like what
Absolutely.
is your situation? So as we go further into this is a whole nother podcast for a whole nother time. But when you go further into this, it's like what I'm doing is important, but if it's not for what you're doing and what the other people are, is like who am I going to protect? You know what I'm saying? Like what am I doing it for?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's
Why do you
like
have all
like
that stuff? Yeah, like, what
what
are
am I doing it for?
you just sitting around
So
hanging on to it?
and it helps add value to what it helps add value to the pool of it. And the thing is, you get more and more people in the billionaire world and the mega millionaire world to come in. It's like they've got a pull with what we're doing. It's shifting in a different level because there's a connection. So it's like we're pulling in the strings from all the different places and they're all weaving together. And we're unwinding our own trauma, our own programming, the things that have, and we're rewinding in new stuff. So it's a constant unwinding and winding. And it's like, it's just absolutely beautiful.
It's a really cool thing, and I'll say this to kind of wrap it up so we don't
Yep.
drag it on too long. But every day that I wake up, I'm unsure as to how much pain I'm going to be in and how much struggle I'm going to have to go through that day and what I'm going to be capable of. And there's some days that I can't get out of bed, and there's some days that I seemingly am fine. But every day is a challenge, and I know that there's going to come a certain amount of challenge in that day. And what I can tell
Yeah.
you is over the last 2 years, I was completely isolated, completely alone, and completely abandoned by everyone in my life. And I went through it and I manifested and worked on myself every single day. And you know what? Came out the other side with this amazing opportunity to bring something that can draw enough attention to what we're doing for veterans, but also bring the American people behind it because we all want to support America in the Olympics. And
Right.
now I've been given this opportunity, but also I have nothing but amazing educational and inspirational conversations with the most amazing people all day, every day. So I went from
It's
talking to
good,
no
bro.
one to having just awesome conversations that are extremely therapeutic for me, as well as for the people I'm talking to all day, every day. And that's amazing. So I know that if it's working for me, it's going to work for the other veterans. It's going to be embraced. And as you said,
Yeah.
vets stick together. I volunteer to
Yes.
teach yoga to and meditation to all the special ops on MacDill Air Force Base. I'm doing the teachings for the RWB for their trainings. It was so many things like this for the veteran organizations. And my organization, Vets to Yoga, the number two yoga, and it's basically the idea of an out processing system and a veteran
Yeah.
village, a place where they can go and have community. Because if you give
Yeah.
vets other vets, I stay on base and in my bus most of the time just because I like to be around other people who understand me and understand
Right.
what I've gone through. And so that familiarity that we have, that family, if we can give vets a chance to go have that, and then also a little bit of medicine, a little wisdom, and a little bit of training, man, we can make a real difference in the world. And it's already happening. I can testify to that. So,
Yeah.
dude,
Well,
you're
much
such a big
much
part of
love,
this
brother.
thing. I love the conversation today. Wow,
Likewise.
we have a lot to go on, and we're just going to keep talking and keep hanging out and keep making stuff happen. So I'm very excited
Yeah.
about it. Thank you for taking out of your time. I know it was last minute notice, but I try and take advantage of the days where I feel good. So
Yeah, good. Yeah. No,
the days I
I
need
was
to
like,
rest,
wait,
I
we're
can
doing a
rest.
podcast.
Yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah. You're
gonna
like, no, no, no,
okay.
no. I'm like, oh, we got to do this, bro. We got to do it right now. I'm good.
Yeah,
Tomorrow, I'm
no,
happy.
it's
So,
good.
all right, brother.
Yeah,
Have a
no, we're
great
good.
day, man. We'll talk some
All right,
more.
much love.
Namaste, my friend. I'll see ya.
See you. Bye.